guys, welcome back to the Tice Travel Time YouTube page. This video is about tips and tricks for walking the Camino de Santiago, and it's mainly centered around packing tips. A lot of the things that I did bring were perfect, but for what I wish I brought, I really wish that I brought a dress or a romper or cozy clothes to change into after walking all day. Usually when we got to an albergue, it was between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. And right when you get there, we often would immediately take a shower and then hand wash our laundry. For me, I only really brought 2 t-shirts that I would go back and forth with. So if I walked in it, I would change out of it and put in my other one. But I really would have liked to put something cozy on and something loose to go out into town and walk around in. I also wish I brought pajamas. I read a lot about people saying that it wasn't really necessary. What a lot of people who are walking will do is they'll actually sleep in their walking clothes for the next day. And that's mainly what I did, and it worked out perfectly fine. I think just in terms of my comfort level, I really would have preferred to bring separate pajamas. Something that I bought along the Camino, I bought a pair of socks. A lot of the socks, if you watched my other video of things that I packed for the Camino de Santiago, I brought a lot of smart wool socks or darn tough socks, which were super great, but they were really thick and I got really bad blisters as I was walking. So I ended up buying 2 pairs of socks that were a lot thinner, and I think they helped with blisters. But also, if I ever walked in my chacos, which were the sandals I brought, then these were pretty easy to wear. Speaking of blisters, something that I bought along the Camino was Vaseline. So what a lot of people will do is right in the morning, right before they put their shoes on and their socks on, they'll Vaseline up their feet and then they'll put their socks and shoes on. That's really common. A lot of people do it, and I didn't bring Vaseline because I didn't know that. But it's super useful. Another big thing that's really common for your blisters is moleskin. And often what you want to do is cut holes into the middle of each square or rectangle. For me, I got a lot of blisters. I think that's because my shoes were too tight. So I would say definitely get your shoes one size up if you're able to, because it'll make a huge difference. So a big part of walking the Camino is walking, so footwear is important. You want your footwear to be a little bigger, so I wish mine were a little bigger, one size up. But I brought actual hiking shoes, so these were pretty nice hiking shoes. I wore these for when I hiked Mount Kilimanjaro, so I had them around. But a lot of people will actually bring regular sneakers. Hokas was a huge brand that I saw a lot of. Shoe wear is super, super, super important. Obviously blisters happen and sometimes they're unavoidable. Along the way, it kind of depended how people treated them. For me, since I was only walking from León to Santiago and it ended up only being 11 days, I never popped any of mine. But a lot of people that were hiking from France all the way to Santiago and were walking for over 30 days, they would pop them. And so kind of gross, I won't go into detail of it too much, but a lot of people brought like a sewing needle and thread, so they would thread their blisters, and you can research that more if you're interested in it. But that was definitely a really common method with blisters, and people would leave the string in their blister so that it wouldn't keep refilling. So obviously please research that if you're interested, but it definitely worked for a lot of my friends. Another thing that I was super happy I brought is this bed bug treatment. So I spray this on my bed and usually on my backpack. We usually stayed in public albergues, which mean they're on the cheaper side, between donations and about €10. And I would always still spray this. We only saw bed bugs twice, which is still too many, but I never got any bites or anything because I was spraying this always on my beds. And a lot of the albergues will come with like disposable sheets and pillowcase, but I also know people that brought a pillowcase and a sheet. I don't think it really matters, but this was super beneficial. Another thing that I was really happy I brought was this converter. It actually has 2 spots to convert. Some places were just really difficult to find like a proper charger place to charge a lot of things. So this was really nice. If you could get one with even more areas to charge, that would be awesome. But that was something that was super beneficial. This fleece hat with a light in it. I didn't really end up using it much, only maybe twice. The cool part about this was that it has a light right here, so you can actually see the light and it turns on, and it's really helpful if you start early in the morning. Usually I started walking around 6 a.m. every day, but what a lot of walkers do, and it's pretty smart, they'll just use their phone flashlight. So they'll turn the phone flashlight on and then put it in their waist and clip your backpack over it. So it stays pretty sturdily there, and it's pretty bright, and it's just another way to not add extra weight to your pack. And almost everyone did that, and it worked perfectly. So I didn't bring a headlamp, and I don't think I needed that to bring that. So that's definitely good. Another thing that I did was I brought this. It was pretty much just like a sleeping sheet. So it's actually like your mummy liner that you would put in a sleeping bag, and it's all I needed. It depended where we were staying, but a lot of places did have blankets, so you could use a blanket. But generally it wasn't too cold, and if it was, I just changed into my pants and my fleece sweatshirt. That wasn't much of a problem. But this would be perfect if you were going in September, which is when I went. It wasn't too cold, but it wasn't too hot, so it was really perfect. Another thing about sleeping in the albergues is that there's a lot of people that snore. So I ended up using my earplugs every single night. It was a huge help. But I also used an eye mask. This one I actually got on the airplane and kept it, and it was perfect. It's really easy to use, and a lot of pilgrims are going in and out. People are getting up early and you don't want to have to see the light, and you just have it on. Or if you go to bed early, it works perfectly that way. Another thing that was useful for me was I brought like my AirPods. You don't need to bring them. It was just for me, if we were walking 6 to 8 hours, it was really nice to listen to music or podcasts or an audiobook. I mainly used Libby. Libby is an app that actually connects with your local library that you're a member of, and then you can borrow books or audiobooks from that app from your library. It's super awesome and super helpful. In terms of apps that I used for the Camino trip, I used CaminoTool, which kind of is like a map of all the different routes, and it can tell you where food is going to be located soon and places to stay, along with lots of ratings and everything. So that's super helpful. The other app that I used was BuenCamino, and BuenCamino was really useful because in the app you can know how far it is to each town, and then you can see how the albergues and food that's there, and that was also really useful. An important thing that I ended up getting in order to use those apps, you can download things, but I got a SIM card. So I flew into Madrid, and right when I got to Madrid, I went to Orange, which was a phone store. And at that phone store, I bought a SIM card for €20, and it was 35 gigabytes. With that, it was super easy for them to install, but also it made it so that if I needed to check my map and know if I was going the right direction or how far I was or any of that, that was useful. Obviously, you don't need a SIM card or a connection. I had a lot of friends that only used Wi-Fi, but for me, it made it a lot easier. And when communicating with friends, we all used WhatsApp because we're from all over the world. So it was really nice to be able to communicate with them and know whereabouts we were. Something else that was really useful for me was my water bladder. So this is a water bladder, and it's super easy to fill up. But this one's a 3-liter water bladder, and we would just fill them up in the sinks, but I was really happy I had it because as I was walking, it was super easy to just drink the water from the bladder, and it made it a lot easier. A lot of my friends had water bottles, and they would need someone to help them put it back in the pack, or they would have to remove their pack to put it back in, and it was just kind of an inconvenience that made them drink a lot less water than I did. So it's really easy to drink water with that. But when I was done walking, I had this plastic water bottle that I brought with me since it was super lightweight. And with this, I would just fill it up after walking, and I could carry this around town. Also, it's plastic, so it doesn't weigh much, and it was not going to be too upsetting if I lost it. So definitely bringing something to carry around still is important after you walk. The next thing that I want to mention is this backpack. It folds up, it's really tiny when you pack it up, but for me it became really useful. A lot of the showers will have little hooks So I would hang this up in the shower with my clothes in it and my things that I didn't want anyone being near, such as my little purse that had my money in it. And I always had cash. You need cash for the albergues. So I would put this in the bag, and it was something that was really useful, but also it gets pretty cold at night, at least in September. So in September, it would usually get a lot colder if we were getting dinner. And so for this, it was easy to carry around, and I brought a solar charger. That was also something I put in here, but it ended up being really useful, and I was happy I had it. In the beginning of my trip, I didn't really utilize it, but by the end, I used it all the time, so this was really good. Another thing that I forgot to mention that I really wish I brought was scissors. They honestly come in handy a lot. In terms of my moleskin, I didn't have scissors to cut the holes in the middle, so I actually went to a store and bought blister stuff with the holes in the middle, and that could have been avoided if I had brought scissors. Also though, in general, a lot of people want scissors just to cut things. I don't know, it ended up being something I really wish I had. Lastly, when you arrive in Santiago, it is the best thing in the world, and you will get your certificate for completing. When you get your certificate, you can buy this little case for your certificate, so mine are in here. But you can also buy this case really similar to this at another store, and it was €5 at the place where you get the certificate. But if you buy them in another shop, they're a little cheaper. So only if you're trying to save money, that would be really beneficial for you to get. But overall, this is a lot of the things that I brought with me on the Camino. It was an amazing experience. I'm really grateful of all the things that I brought. I had a really light pack. It was incredible. You meet your Camino family. The landscapes are spectacular, and it is one of the best experiences ever. So if you are planning and packing for your Camino, good luck. I hope that it is amazing, and thank you for watching. Buen Camino.